And streaming on crossroadstoday.com, the Victoria ISD Board of Trustees starts interviewing candidates for the superintendent job.
A Victoria man is charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon.
And Texas is sending help to North Carolina to support the people and canines in search and recovery.
We are still looking out at the tropics, but it looks less and less like this could actually become a storm. However, it is going to get close enough to maybe give us a few showers. We'll be talking about that coming up.
And the Bloomington Bobcats are ready to win back-to-back games in district play versus Flatonia. That's coming up in sports.
Watching 25 News now at 10. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Don Brubaker.
And I'm Shauna Curry. A 12-year-old Victoria student has been arrested for making a false threat against his school. This morning, school resource deputies at Patty Welder Middle School got a report that a student made a threat of a school shooting. School resource deputies immediately investigated and found the threat to be false. However, that false threat created alarm to other students. So the student was arrested and charged with false alarm or report, which is a state jail felony. He's currently being held at the Juvenile Detention Center. The Victoria ISD Board of Trustees is interviewing candidates for the district's new superintendent. 8 candidates were selected from a pool of more than 15 applicants to be interviewed over the next 2 days. By law, the district cannot share any specific details, including who they are. The search is necessary after former superintendent Dr. Quentin Shepard accepted a role in the Austin area. The board used feedback from a community survey earlier this year to zero in on the qualities that people want to see in the next superintendent and help pick the candidates.
I want their number one to be priority to be the kids of Victoria, Texas. The kids of our community deserve the very best, and all of their leaders, teachers, and everybody who works in this community for kids.
Now, the pool of 8 will be narrowed down to 4 candidates who will go through a second round of interviews. Then a lone finalist is expected to be announced on October 17th.
On the November 5th ballot will be 2 tax rate elections for voters to decide, one for Victoria ISD and one for Industrial ISD. If you're not registered to vote, the deadline to do so is next Monday, October 7th. The districts are asking voters to approve a rate that will bring in additional revenue for maintenance and operations to provide pay increases to teachers and staff as well. If approved, the increase for Victoria ISD taxpayers will be 9 cents. And Industrial ISD taxpayers will have an 8-cent increase.
The Democratic candidate for U.S. Representative District 27 says her campaign has raised more than $50,000. Tanya Lloyd says the donations come from nearly 600 contributions from more than 350 unique donors. Lloyd is a school teacher from Lockhart, and she adds that 80% of her campaign fundraising comes from District 27. She's running against Congressman Michael Cloud, the Republican incumbent. Now, according to Cloud's most recent quarterly campaign report, which was filed in July, his campaign has raised more than $521,000.
And Congressman Cloud demands answers from ICE over nearly 300,000 missing migrant children. The Department of Homeland Security reports these children, under the care of the Office of Refugee Resettlement, effectively disappeared from official radar. In a letter to ICE, Cloud expressed worries that the failure in oversight left the children vulnerable to sex trafficking and forced labor. Cloud told the Washington Examiner, quote, "The Biden-Harris administration's failure to track thousands of vulnerable migrant children is unacceptable. This administration is sitting by and not doing nearly enough to get answers and fix this crisis," unquote. In his letter, Congressman Cloud asked for information as to what steps were being taken to fix the problem. A Victoria man was arrested today on an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon charge. Victoria police also arrested 42-year-old Thomas Rivera on a charge of bail jumping. He's in the Victoria County Jail in lieu of $100,000 bond. Hurricane Helene hit Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and North Carolina hard, as we all know, and now hundreds of roads remain closed. Several towns are still isolated.
At last check, the death toll has topped 180 and many people remain unaccounted for. The living are trying to get needed supplies like food, water, and medicine.
The worst of Hurricane Helene may still be untold.
We are still searching.
Hundreds of people are believed to be missing. In one Tennessee community Wednesday, loved ones held up photos.
What about these families that are waiting to hear about their families? When are they going to get the closure they need?
Anxiously awaiting status updates on their loved ones.
We are trying our best to bring answers and closure to families about their loved ones.
More than 4,500 federal personnel are helping in recovery efforts in hard-struck areas. FEMA says the terrain in some areas may complicate recovery efforts.
As we look at the infrastructure damages to water, to the cell lines, to power, the ability to get those turned back on is going to be complicated just by the way Appalachia is configured.
With many failed roads, many crucial supplies are being delivered by airdrop, and in some cases, mule train. Wednesday afternoon, Vice President Kamala Harris toured debris in Augusta, Georgia.
There's a lot of work that's going to need to happen over the coming days, weeks, and months.
Also Wednesday, President Joe Biden finally getting a first-hand look at the cataclysmic conditions left in Helene's wake in western North Carolina. He pledged every available resource to assist in the recovery efforts.
The United States, the nation, has your back. The nation has your back. We're not leaving you back on your feet completely.
I'm Sherelle Hubbard reporting.
President Biden also ordered the deployment of up to 1,000 active duty soldiers to help speed up delivery of crucial aid into affected communities in North Carolina.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott is sending emergency response resources to support the recovery efforts there in North Carolina. This comes after a request from North Carolina Emergency Management. The Texas A&M Veterinary Emergency Team will help with canine medical care and decontamination for working dogs involved in the search and rescue operations. The Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service will help disaster personnel with vet operations.
Let's take a first look at your forecast with First Orange Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Mac Pettis. Mac, we've been talking a lot about situations kind of in the Caribbean or Gulf. What's the latest on that?
Well, we're still watching that big area of low pressure. It's not organized. It's not, shall we say, it's less of a chance that it would organize into a tropical system. However, it is expected to come visit us. Maybe we'll get a couple showers out of it, but I wouldn't, expect a whole lot from it. We'll be talking more about that coming up in just a few minutes. Back to you.
Mac, thank you. We still have plenty of time before the holidays, of course, but heads up, as we get closer to the holiday season, you might find it difficult to find some of your favorite bottles of alcohol.
That is, if the massive port workers strike along the east and the Gulf Coast isn't resolved anytime soon. Troy Kless reports from Houston on how a prolonged strike could affect alcohol sales.
Several kinds of goods are waiting to be brought into the Port of Houston. Goods that include alcohol heading for the shelves of liquor stores like Specs.
I know we have thousands of cases that are on order for the holidays, and a lot of those are on the water now trying to get here.
John Reedman, president of Specs, says it's imported items.
We've got our Pinot Grigios and our wines from Italy. We've got several thousand cases of those coming in. We've got all our champagnes for December. Irish creams, scotches, French gins, everything alcohol from Europe.
Most of those goods come in refrigerated containers, he says. Experts say other goods include perishables and some pharmaceuticals, but they won't be an issue right away. A problem will arise if the strike lasts 3 to 4 weeks. At grocery stores, they're also expecting to be fine. Kroger telling me this afternoon they do not expect impacts from the strike. And H-E-B also saying they don't anticipate customer impact, stating most products are not affected. But back in Specs, Reedman says holiday orders were placed in June and July, so adjustments can't be made. They're hoping the strike doesn't last too long.
It will affect what we have available in December. And then the next thing is the prices will go up and the consumers will see higher prices. I don't like it.
Well, trade experts say fruits like bananas could be some of the first affected by the strike. But a run on toilet paper is making it feel like it's 2020 all over again. People panic buying toilet paper after the major port strike started, leading to shortages in stores across the country. Even here locally, we've seen a lot of shelves already being emptied. It's all unnecessary, though, because the strike at the ports from Maine to Texas will have absolutely zero impact on the TP supply. The overwhelming majority of U.S. toilet paper comes from domestic factories, and most of the rest, if not from the U.S., comes from Canada and Mexico. So most likely they're arriving by rail or truck, not by ship. The same is with paper towels as well as bottled water, which are also a little sparse right now on the shelves.
Thank you for that update. And here are some of the top headlines you can read in the Port Lavaca Wave. The Calhoun County Combined Dispatch Center is almost complete. And the Port Lavaca Fire Department hosted members of the Texas Brotherhood Ride. You can read these stories and more at portlavacawave.com.
A man lost his son to friendly fire in Afghanistan in April 2011, a devastating blow for a man who referred to his child as a great friend. Yet in Victoria Saturday to pay tribute to his son at the Warriors Weekend Field of Honor, he says he bears no ill will against the Army or those responsible for his son's death. To read this full Texas Tribune article, visit our website, crossroadstoday.com.
Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Then you can see Crossroads Today on YouTube. And stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10. The doctor linked to the death of actor Matthew Perry enters a plea in the case.
Also ahead, Israel is pressing forward on two fronts after 8 Israeli soldiers were killed.
Prosecutors say Donald Trump laid the groundwork to try to overturn the 2020 election even before he lost, knowingly pushed false claims of voter fraud and, in their words, resorted to crimes in his failed bid to cling to power. A newly unsealed court filing argues that the former president is not entitled to immunity from prosecution. It was submitted by special counsel Jack Smith's team following a Supreme Court opinion that conferred broad immunity on former presidents and narrowed the scope of the prosecution.
A San Diego doctor charged in connection with actor Matthew Perry's fatal overdose has pleaded guilty to conspiring to distribute the surgical anesthetic ketamine. Dr. Mark Chavez entered the plea today in a Los Angeles federal court. The Friends star died last year of a ketamine overdose. Chavez and 2 others have pleaded guilty in the case and agreed to cooperate. Prosecutors' 2 main targets are a doctor allegedly supplied by Chavez, who's accused of selling the drug to Perry, and a woman who prosecutors say is a drug dealer who sold him the lethal dose.
U.S. kindergarten vaccination rates dipped last year, and the proportion of children with exemptions rose to an all-time high. CDC data shows exemptions rose to 3.3%. Nearly 93% of kindergartners got their required shots. That's lower than where it was the previous 2 years. The rate was 95% in the years before the pandemic. That's considered the ideal minimum level. It makes it unlikely that a single infection will spark a disease cluster or outbreak. Microsoft announced a major update to its Copilot AI system. The company says it's added new features to make Copilot feel more personable. That includes a warmer tone that not only provides information, but also gives encouragement and advice. The new Copilot features also include real-time voice interactions and the ability to interpret images and text on user screens. Microsoft is hoping this updated digital friend model will help it stand apart from other AI chatbots.
Yeah, these chatbots are being able to do a lot nowadays. So it brings us to today's viewer poll. Do you think the government should impose stricter regulations on artificial intelligence? Yes or no? I think we ticked up 1% on the yes since our 6 o'clock newscast. So, and I'm sure that there will be some more regulations being put into place as AI becomes even more mainstream. So thanks for everyone who voted today.
Officials in Hawaii announced their latest findings into what caused the Lahaina wildfires on Maui last year. 102 people were killed in the August 2023 tragedy. Federal and state officials found that it was sparked by the rekindling of an earlier fire firefighters thought had been put out completely. Hawaii Governor Josh Green recently announced a $4 billion settlement. Hawaiian Electric, Maui County, the state itself, and several large landowners have to pay that to settle claims. As the Jewish New Year gets underway, Israel is promising retaliation for Iran's massive missile attack Tuesday night.
Now, President Biden is now speaking out about Israel's possible response as Israeli troops clash with Hezbollah in Lebanon. We get the latest from ABC's Alexis Christoforous.
New video today of U.S. missiles fired from the eastern Mediterranean Tuesday to intercept the barrage of rockets fired into Israel by Iran. The U.S. and Israel's air defense system helping to stop many of the nearly 200 missiles. But some did make it through, including this one hitting an elementary school in southern Israel. Israel now vowing Iran will pay for the attack, but falling short of saying how or when retaliation will happen. An official only saying it will be significant and come fast. Iran saying the attack was a response to Israel's recent operations killing leaders of Hezbollah and Hamas, as well as Israel's attacks and destruction in Lebanon and Gaza. Iran is urging the U.S. to step aside, warning of a far more crushing response as fears grow over an all-out war in the Middle East. President Biden telling reporters today that he will not support a strike on Iranian nuclear sites, but that the U.S. stands in support of its ally.
We'll be discussing with the Israelis what they're going to do. They have a right to respond, but they should respond in proportion.
In a separate attack in the Tel Aviv area Tuesday, Hamas's military wing is now claiming responsibility. 7 people were killed in the shooting, 16 others wounded. The Israeli military sending more troops into southern Lebanon today, announcing the first deaths from the conflict there. 8 Israeli soldiers killed in an ambush by Hezbollah fighters. The Lebanese state media reporting 11 people have been killed in Israeli attacks in Lebanon today. While Israel won't say how it plans to retaliate, Israeli officials say all options are on the table, including targeting Iran's oil facilities. Alexis Christoforous, ABC News, New York.
Well, here are some of the top headlines in this latest edition of the Cuero Record. The BeFit Wellness Center celebrates 10 years of community health, and the DeWitt County Historical Museum undergoes a renovation. You can read the full stories and more at dewittcountytoday.com.
Well, good evening, everybody. We're looking at 76 degrees out there, fairly comfortable. Low humidity always sort of helps out, but we got up to 95 degrees today. That's a bit above where we're supposed to be. It is October, right? That's what the calendar says. We'll be taking a look at the tropics for you coming up in just a moment. You know, we of course had the very warm day today, but everybody's still talking about Helene and all of the destruction. I've got a video to show you of social media, but this is what we call a flash flood. Now, as you know, I mean, it rains, but when it rains in the mountains, it focuses that stuff and it rolls down the hillside. This is going to re-rack. Here it comes. It's just a little stream, and then all of a sudden, a wall of water rolls down, and you know, the guy videotaping said, well, there goes my car. But that's what happens in a flash flood, and that's what it's called. And of course, obviously, it's a huge problem, and a lot of that was happening. The Appalachian, the crest was getting, you know, 15 to 18 inches of rain during the whole storm. So you can imagine all that water had to go somewhere. Well, early this morning we had a north wind that made the morning nice, but by afternoon some of that Gulf air is trying to slow back in, but it's not having much luck. We're looking south because that tropical system, the good news, is not going to organize into a tropical depression. It's less likely. It's down to 30%. But it is expected to start drifting toward us once this little front dies off, and that's going to bring some Gulf air to the region, possibly giving us a couple of showers. The interesting part is that by the time it gets to our coast, there's another front coming through to blow it away. Tomorrow, we're looking at another warm Thursday, up to about 94 degrees. Everybody else doing the 90s. Doesn't feel like October, does it? Well, here's what we're talking about. This is the development area that concerned us at the beginning because it might have developed, but it doesn't look like it now. Now we're waiting for it to just start to drift toward us, and then it gets to the coastline. I think it's going to stop at Seadrift. I mean, just right there. That's it. That's all we're going to get. In the Atlantic, two very big developments today. This is Hurricane Kirk. Kirk is getting to be a monster storm. It's up to a 4. Possibly could be a 5 in the next day or so. Fortunately, it's out in the middle of the Atlantic. And this is Leslie, which now gives us 12 named storms for the season, slightly above normal, but not what we expected for a rapid development. So the area of low pressure should start to move to the west. This, of course, the very active tropics. Just off the coast of Mexico, lots of activity, and one more tropical storm headed toward Acapulco. That would be the 4th this season. This is the rainfall forecast. You can see it over the next couple of days, how it starts to increase and get closer and closer and closer, and then it just stops right there at the coastline. By that time, the drier air starts coming in from down here, and all of a sudden it just keeps all that tropical air in place. We will get a few showers along the immediate coastline. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but then you see where's it going? It stops. And then eventually the dry air pushes it across the Gulf into, well, believe it or not, Florida. So they're going to be getting a lot more rain associated with that system. The front is going to make it move. It was just sort of lollygagging out there doing nothing. 78 in the morning. By 9 a.m. up to 90 in the afternoon in Port Lavaca. Nice sunny day. If you have anything to do outdoors, tomorrow's good, except the middle part of the day when it should get up to about 93 in Cuero. Looking for a little bit more Gulf moisture coming in on Friday, and then a couple of isolated showers. I think it's more likely down toward the coast than inland. So if you're in Cuero, Gonzales, you're probably not going to see that. But if you're down in Palacios and Matagorda, you might see some afternoon shower activity. And Sunday night, another dry north wind rolls in, and that's going to dry us up and say goodbye to that rain chance. It will knock the temperature down, maybe 2 degrees. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that. Put Crossroads Today on your phone. And now it's time for sports with Maximus. Oh, Maximilian.
Nice. Maximilian, yeah.
Max
good one
1,000.
Right Again, the St. Joseph Flyers ready to finish the season strong. I'll talk more about the Flyers football team coming up in sports. Now, everyone, last week we mentioned Bloomington's huge win versus the Danbury Panthers at home last week. And running back Aiden Gardner went off, having 2 touchdowns on the ground. But this week they're playing on the road versus the Flatonia Bulldogs. And Flatonia, they're heading in this game a little bit angry because they got destroyed by Ganado last week, 84-3. While Bloomington, they have some confidence and some excitement from last week. Again, Flatonia is 1-4 this season, and Bloomington is 2-3. Both of these teams trying to get a statement win this Friday night. And running back Aiden Gardner, offensive lineman Marquise Dilworth are ready for the challenge.
To be honest, pretty excited. We just got to execute and fix things that we messed up on last week.
We're very excited. We've been working really hard for this moment, and I feel like if we could constantly work, keep on being coachable and disciplined, we'll be fine.
Aiden and Marquise are hoping to get a big-time win and keep making history for the Bobcats this Friday versus Flatonia. Now, even though Bloomington will look to get back-to-back wins this season, there are other teams that are trying to get some star players and get some big-time wins here going into Week 6. And here's some options for who will be a big-time standout here performance here in Week 6. And the options were Cuero wide receiver Walker Dietz, St. Joseph Flyers quarterback Aiden Aragon, Refugio quarterback Keelan Brown, or Victoria West running back Genesis Jeffries. And man, this went back and forth, but at the end of the day, it looks like now Genesis Jeffries takes over in the viewer pool over Aiden Aragon. Again, Aiden had it there for the 6 o'clock. It changed now there to Jeffries. So props up for both of those two, though, for doing well here in our viewer poll, and wish everybody luck here in Week 6. Now, speaking of Aiden and the St. Joseph Flyers, they're trying to get some success and get back on the win column after it took a bad loss last week in Week 5. One of the running back, Dedrick Callis, was a big part of this team for the Flyers, and I had a chance to talk to him earlier to see how he feels in the first couple of weeks and what he looks forward to the rest of the way.
We developed throughout the weeks, and so when we came out Week 3, I mean, we came out pretty strong, and so I just felt good about that week. And so, like, from there to now, I feel like we improved a lot.
Callis and the Flyers are hoping to get a big-time win in the win column versus for CD Catholic in Houston area this Friday night at 7 p.m. And now, if you're a Houston Astros fan, it was not a good day for you. They got eliminated earlier today by the Detroit Tigers, losing 5-2. This game was scoreless until the 6th inning when Parker Meadows for the Tigers homered to right and make the Tigers get up 1-0 there in the inning. And then the Astros, they would respond, right? Josh Singleton, Jose Altuve brought some runs there in the 7th inning, but the Tigers, they would answer right back. How about a pinch hitter, Andy Ibanez, had a 3 RBI double to left field and brought 3 runs in for the Tigers. That would be enough for them to get the win. And now the AL wild card is all set. You got Detroit versus the Guardians there on Saturday, and you got the Yankees versus the Royals as well in the AL wild card. And then finally tonight, some huge news in the NFL with Buffalo Bills linebacker Von Miller. He's suspended for 4 games for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. NFL did not mention Miller will be eligible for reinstatement on October 28th after the Bills' Week 8 game versus the Seattle Seahawks. This began after an alleged domestic dispute in Texas back in 2023, and Miller was accused of assaulting his pregnant girlfriend there on the dispute. So hopefully for the Bills, they can get Von Miller back and healthy because he's a big-time player when he's on the field. That's going to do it here in sports. Don and Shauna, back to you.
Thank you, Max, and stay with us. Coming up on 25 News now at 10, we'll take a last look at your weather. Plus, a judge gives the okay for a prediction market to offer election betting. Odds are we'll have that story next. A former Spider-Man could return to the role if it's up to him, that is. Andrew Garfield told Esquire in a new interview he'd, quote, 100% be into, unquote, portraying the character again. Garfield was Spidey in 2012's The Amazing Spider-Man and its sequel 2 years later. Later films starred Tom Holland as the web slinger. As of now, Marvel has not said it plans to produce a third film in the Amazing Spider-Man series.
Wait and see. Well, a federal appeals court just gave the green light for a prediction market to offer election betting. This decision denies a government watchdog's attempt to block a previous ruling, which cleared the way for legal political gambling in the U.S. Kalshi, an online platform where users can bet on future events, wasted no time relaunching its congressional control contracts just hours after the ruling. Now Americans can bet on which party will control the House and Senate in 2025.
I think it's good. I think it's good. You know why? Because people are going to run to the polls to try and change the bet balance, right?
Maybe.
No?
Well, but that's not the reason you vote for a certain candidate, right?
Hey, it isn't working what we're doing,
I'm so
you know.
old-fashioned. I'm
I
sorry.
know. You're just a softie.
But now, let me ask you this. If you were a betting man, the DeWitt County Commissioners are going to vote tomorrow putting on a burn ban in that county. If you were a betting man.
I would bet that they would put it back up because we are very dry and we've been with the very low humidities. And so it's a concern. You know, we were excited about this tropical thing that might bring us some substantial rainfall, but it's looking less and less likely. Tomorrow, very hot, getting up to 95. The shower chance will be on Saturday. If you're by the coast, you'll have a better shot at getting it. If you're inland, you're probably not going to see much of that. So, yeah, it continues to keep us on the dry side of everything. Temperatures in the 90s even next week.
Thank you, Mac. If you ever have tech issues, and we all do from time to time, now's the time to celebrate those who help you solve those problems. That's because Thursday is National Techies Day, observed every year on October 3rd. It's worth noting that National Techies Day falls in National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Cybersecurity is another reason to appreciate techies and all they do to help protect our data, computers, smartphones, and software. Thank you, techies.
Yes. Now with all the phishing scams and everything, we need those techies for sure. So, well, thanks for joining us for 25 News Now at 10.
25 News Now Sunrise, 5 a.m. Good night, everybody.